There are things in life that don't break your body, but slowly weaken your heart, not the physical heart, but the spiritual heart. The heart that feels imaan, that connects with Allah, that finds peace in Salah and strength in hardship. And the dangerous part. These habits don't destroy you overnight. They work quietly, slowly, until one day you feel distant from Allah and you don't even know why. Today, let's confront 4 habits that silently weaken your heart, and more importantly, how to break free from them. 1. Constant exposure to sin. The first habit is exposing yourself to sin repeatedly without feeling anything. At first, when you sin, your heart shakes. You feel guilt. You feel regret. That's a sign your heart is alive. But if you keep going back, again and again, something changes. The sin doesn't change, you do. Your heart becomes numb. What once bothered you no longer affects you. You scroll through things you shouldn't see. You listen to things that distance you from Allah. You speak words that carry no weight of accountability. And slowly, your heart builds a shield, not of strength, but of darkness, because every sin leaves a mark. And if those marks aren't erased with repentance, they pile up until the heart struggles to recognize truth from falsehood. But here's the hope. No matter how many sins you've committed, your heart can still be revived. Turn back. Make sincere Tawbah. Even if you fall again, return again, because the heart doesn't die from sin. It dies from not returning to Allah after sin too. Neglecting Salah. The second habit is neglecting your prayers. Salah is not just an obligation. It is your connection, your lifeline, your daily meeting with Allah. But when you delay it, rush through it, or abandon it altogether, you're not just missing a prayer. You're disconnecting your heart from its source of strength. Think about it. When life gets overwhelming, where do you run? If your answer is not Allah, then something is missing, because Salah is meant to ground you, to calm you, to remind you that no matter how chaotic your life becomes, Allah is in control. But when you neglect it, your heart starts searching for peace in other places, places that will never satisfy it. And that's why you feel restless, unsettled. Because the heart was created to find peace in remembering Allah, not in chasing the dunya. So rebuild that connection. Even if your prayers aren't perfect, pray. Even if your focus isn't strong, pray. Because a weak connection is still better than no connection at all. Point 3. Attachment to dunya. The third habit is becoming too attached to this world. Loving the dunya is not the problem. Loving it more than Allah is. When your happiness depends only on money, status, people, or success, your heart becomes fragile. Because all of those things can be taken away. And when they are, your heart collapses with them. That's what dunya does. It promises stability, but delivers uncertainty. It promises happiness, but leaves emptiness. The more you attach your heart to it, the more fear and anxiety you carry. Fear of losing, fear of failing, fear of not having enough. But when your heart is attached to Allah, you lose that fear, because you know that whatever you lose was never meant to stay. And whatever is meant for you will never miss you. So enjoy the dunya, but don't let it own your heart. Let your heart belong to the one who never leaves. 4. Ignoring the Quran. The fourth habit is distancing yourself from the Quran, not just physically, but emotionally. The Quran is not just a book to read. It is a guide, a healer, a light. But when you ignore it, your heart loses direction. You start making decisions based on desires instead of guidance. You start following emotions instead of truth. And slowly your heart becomes confused, because without the Quran, you're walking in darkness, even if everything around you looks bright. But when you return to it even a little, something changes. Your heart softens, your mind clears, your soul feels alive again. You don't need to understand everything at once. Start small, one ayah, one reflection, one sincere moment with the words of Allah, because the Quran doesn't just inform the heart, it transforms it. Final message: if your heart feels heavy, if ibadah feels difficult, if you feel distant from Allah, don't ignore it. That's your heart calling you back. These habits don't define you, but they can shape you if you let them continue. So break them. By step, return to Allah. Not perfectly, but sincerely, because no matter how far you've gone, Allah's mercy is always closer than you think. And the heart that turns back to Him will never be left empty again. There is something deeply dangerous about sin, but not always in the way people think. It's not just the act itself that harms you. It's what happens after the act. Inside your heart, the first time you commit a sin, your heart reacts. You feel uncomfortable. There's a heaviness in your chest. A quiet voice inside you whispers, "This is wrong." You may try to ignore it, but it's there. That feeling, that guilt, is actually a mercy. It's a sign that your heart is still alive, still sensitive, still connected to Allah. But here's where the danger begins. When you repeat that same sin again and again and again, without turning back to Allah, something starts to change. The sin doesn't feel as heavy anymore. The guilt becomes weaker. That voice inside you grows quieter. Until one day, it disappears. And that is the real loss, because now you're not just committing a sin, you're committing it with a heart that no longer feels it. This is what it means for the heart to become numb. A numb heart doesn't cry when it should cry. It doesn't feel remorse when it should feel regret. It doesn't turn back when it should return. It becomes comfortable with disobedience. And once the heart reaches that state, even major sins start to feel normal. What once shocked you now entertains you. What once made you lower your gaze now holds your attention. What once made you seek forgiveness now passes without a second thought. This is how hearts slowly drift away, not through one big fall, but through many small repeated steps. And the most dangerous part, you might not even realize it's happening. You might still pray sometimes. You might still believe you're okay. But deep down, something feels off. Ibadah feels heavy. The Quran doesn't move you like it used to. Your connection with Allah feels distant. That's not sluchayno. That's the effect of a heart being covered, layer by layer, by unaddressed sins. But here is the hope, the powerful, beautiful hope. No matter how numb your heart feels, it is never beyond revival. As long as you are alive, your heart can come back to life. How? Through sincere tawbah, not just saying astaghfirullah with your tongue, but feeling it in your heart. A moment of honesty where you admit, Ya Allah, I've gone wrong, I need you. And even if you fall again, return again and again and again. Because Allah does not get tired of your lauda, returning. But you might get tired of asking, so don't stop. Break the cycle of sin by interrupting it with repentance. Dim the habit, not just remove it. Fill your time with something better. Surround yourself with reminders of Allah. Protect your environment, because what you constantly expose yourself to shapes your qalb. And most importantly, never become comfortable with sin. Struggle against it. Even if you lose sometimes, the struggle itself keeps your heart alive. Because a believer is not someone who never sins. A believer is someone who never becomes okay with sin. So if you still feel even a little guilt, even a little discomfort, hold on to it. That feeling is not weakness. It is a sign that your heart is still alive and calling you back to Allah. There is a reason Salah was not made a weekly act. There is a reason it wasn't once a day. It was placed 5 times across your day, morning, midday, afternoon, evening, and night, because your heart needs constant reconnection. Salah is not just a ritual. It is your anchor in a world that is constantly pulling you in every direction. But when you begin to delay it, rush through it, or abandon it, you don't just lose a prayer. You begin to lose your connection. At first, it feels small. You say, I'll pray later. You get busy, distracted, tired, and later turns into even later, until the prayer slips away completely. Then it happens again and again. Until Salah is no longer the center of your life, it becomes an afterthought. And that's when the qalb, heart, starts to weaken, because Salah was never meant to be a burden. It was meant to be a relief, a pause. A moment where you step away from everything and stand in front of the one who controls everything. Think about your hardest days, the stress, the anxiety, the pressure. Where do you go with it? If you're not turning to Allah in Salah, you're carrying it all alone. And that's why your heart feels heavy, because it was never designed to hold the weight of this dunya without divine support. Salah is where you unload that weight. It's where you say, Ya Allah, I can't do this on my own. But when you delay or abandon it, you cut off that source of strength. Slowly, your heart becomes restless. You search for peace in your phone and people and distractions, but nothing truly satisfies, because real peace was waiting for you on that prayer mat. And it's not just about missing peace, it's about losing direction. Every salah is a reminder, a reset. It reminds you who you are, why you're here, where you're going. Without it, life becomes noisy, confusing, overwhelming. You start reacting to everything instead of grounding yourself in something higher. And perhaps the most dangerous part is this: when you stay away from salah for too long, coming back starts to feel hard. Shaitan whispers, you've already missed so much. What's the point now? But that's the trap, because the door to Allah is never closed. Not after one missed prayer, not after 100. The moment you decide to return, that moment is accepted. Even if your salah isn't perfect, even if your focus is weak, even if your heart feels distant, pray anyway. Because consistency builds connection, and connection brings life back to the heart. Start small if you have to. Guard one prayer, then another. Build it slowly, but build it sincerely. Don't wait for motivation. Discipline will carry you further. And remember this: Salah is not something you fit into your schedule. It is something you build your life around, because everything in your life can fall apart. But if your connection with Allah is strong, you will still stand. So return to your prayers, not as a routine, but as a meeting. Not as an obligation, but as a lifeline, because the heart that stands before Allah regularly will never remain weak for long. There is a difference between being lost in life and being guided but choosing to ignore it. Many people today are not searching for truth. They are surrounded by it, yet disconnected from it. And one of the biggest reasons for that disconnection is this: ignoring the Quran, not necessarily rejecting it, not denying it, but slowly, quietly, placing it on a shelf in your life where it no longer speaks to you. Days pass, weeks pass, sometimes months. The Quran is there, but your relationship with it isn't. And when that happens, something inside you begins to shift. Because the Quran is not just a book of reward, it is a book of guidance, a compass for the heart. Without it, your decisions start coming from your desires, your emotions, your surroundings, and those things are unstable. One day you feel strong, the next day you feel lost. One moment you're confident, the next you're confused. Why? Because your heart is trying to navigate life without the one thing designed to guide it. That's what spiritual confusion feels like. You don't necessarily feel bad, uncertain, disconnected. You start questioning things you once felt sure about. You chase things that don't satisfy you. You follow paths that look right but feel wrong deep inside. And the root of all of this is simple. You are walking without light because the Quran is described as Noor, light. And without light, even the straight path becomes hard to see. But here's the reality many people overlook. The Quran doesn't benefit you just by being in your home. It benefits you when it is in your heart, when its words are not just read, but felt, reflected upon, lived. You don't need to be a scholar to connect with the Quran. You don't need to understand every tafsir or deep meaning. What you need is sincerity. Start with one ayah, just one. Ride it slowly. Ask yourself, what is Allah telling me here? How does this apply to my life? Where do I need to change? That one moment of reflection can open a door in your heart that you didn't even know was closed. And slowly, something beautiful begins to happen. Your heart softens, your thoughts become clearer, your decisions become more grounded. Because now, you're not just reacting to life, you're being guided through it. And even in your hardest moments, you find something you didn't have before. Clarity. Not because your problems disappeared, but because your perspective changed. You begin to see tests as purpose, delays as wisdom. Pain is a path back to Allah. That is what the Quran does. It doesn't just change your situation, it changes you. But if you continue to ignore it, the opposite happens. The heart hardens, the mind becomes restless. And the soul feels like it's searching for something it can't find. So don't wait for the perfect time to return to the Quran. Don't wait until Ramadan. Don't wait until life gets easier. Start now, even if it's just a few lines a day. Because consistency, even if small, builds connection, and connection brings light. Remember this. The Quran was not sent down to sit on a shelf. It was sent down to lift hearts out of darkness. So if you feel lost, if you feel confused, if your heart feels heavy without a clear reason, maybe it's not that you need more answers. Maybe you just need to return to the words that already have them, because the heart that walks with the Quran will never remain lost for long. There is a difference between a heart that is wounded and a heart that has become hard. A wounded heart still feels. It hurts, it longs, it cries. There is life in it, even if that life is struggling. But a hard heart, it stops responding. And this is one of the most dangerous states a person can reach, because when the heart becomes hard, iman doesn't settle easily inside it. You might still believe. You might still identify as a Muslim. But the feeling of faith, the sweetness, the softness, the connection begins to fade. You stand in Salah, but it feels empty. You hear reminders, but they don't move you. You read words that once touched you deeply, but now they pass through you. And you start to wonder, what happened to me? The answer is not always one big moment. It's usually a slow buildup. Small habits, repeated neglect, ignored reminders, unchecked sins. Each one adds a layer over the heart until it becomes heavy. And when the heart is heavy, it struggles to respond to truth. It's like trying to plant seeds in hardened soil. No matter how pure the seed is, it won't grow unless the soil is softened. In the same way, no matter how powerful the reminder is, it won't impact a heart that has become rigid. That's why ibadah begins to feel difficult, not because it is meant to be hard, but because the heart is no longer receptive. And this can show up in subtle ways. You delay your prayers without feeling urgency. You commit a wrong action without feeling regret. You hear about accountability, but it doesn't shake you. These are not small signs. They are signals that your heart is becoming disconnected. But here is something important to understand. A hard heart doesn't mean a dead heart. It means a heart that needs softening. And just like anything that hardens over time, it can also be softened with the right effort. The first step is honesty. Admit to yourself, my heart doesn't feel the way it used to. Not with shame, but with awareness, because you cannot fix what you refuse to acknowledge. The second step is to reduce what is causing the hardness. Look at your habits. What are you constantly exposing your heart to? What are you watching? listening to, engaging with, because your heart absorbs what you repeatedly feed it. If you fill it with distractions, negativity, or sin, it will harden. But if you begin to feed it with remembrance, reflection, and sincerity, it will slowly soften. And then comes the most powerful step, turning back to Allah, even if your heart feels dry. Even if your emotions are not there, raise your hands and speak honestly. Ya Allah, my heart feels distant. Soften it. Bring it back to life. That kind of dua, raw, real, sincere, has power. Because Allah is the one who turns hearts, not you. You make the effort, but He creates the change. And don't underestimate small actions. A single sincere sajda, a quiet moment of dhikr, a tear that falls when no one is watching. These moments break through the hardness. They create cracks where light can enter again. Over time, those cracks grow, and slowly your heart begins to feel again. You find yourself more hadir, present in prayer, more affected by reminders, more aware of your actions. That is the return of imaan, not sudden, but gradual. Real, so if your heart feels heavy, don't ignore it. That heaviness is not the end. It's a signal, a call to return, because the heart that struggles to feel imaan today can become a heart full of light tomorrow. All it needs is sincerity, effort, and a step back towards Allah. No matter how far you've gone, no matter how many times you've fallen, there is one truth you should never doubt. Your heart can always come back to life, not because of your strength, not because of your past, but because of the mercy of Allah. Sometimes people think they are too far gone. They look at their mistakes, their repeated sins, their broken consistency, and they begin to believe a dangerous lie. Maybe I'm not meant to be close to Allah. But that thought itself is a barrier because it makes you stop trying. It makes you accept distance as your reality, and that is exactly what keeps the heart weak. The truth is, the door of Tawbah, repentance, is not just open. It was created for people who fall, not for those who are perfect, not for those who never slip, but for those who recognize their mistakes and choose to return. Tawbah is not just about saying astaghfirullah with your lips. It is a turning of the heart, a moment where you stop running away and start coming back. It begins with honesty. You admit to yourself, I was wrong. No excuses, no justifications, just truth. Then comes regret, not the kind that makes you hopeless, but the kind that softens your heart, the kind that reminds you that you want better, that you were created for more. And then comes the decision. I want to change. Even if you're not sure how, even if you're afraid you might fall again, because Tawbah is not about guaranteeing perfection, it's about choosing direction. And when that moment is sincere, even if it's quiet, even if it's just between you and Allah, it carries immense power. Because Allah does not look at how many times you sinned. He looks at how sincerely you return. And here's something deeply comforting. Every time you make sincere tawbah, something happens inside your heart. The weight begins to lift. The darkness begins to fade. The qalb, heart that once felt distant, starts to feel closer again. It may not be instant, but it is real. And even if you fall again after that, return again, because falling does not disqualify you. Staying down does. There are people who sin less but never return. And there are people who fall often but keep turning back with sincerity. The second type is closer to Allah because their hearts never stop seeking Him. So don't let your past define your future. Don't let your mistakes convince you that you are unworthy. Because if Allah didn't want you back, you wouldn't even feel the desire to return. That feeling itself is a sign of His mercy calling you. So respond to it. Raise your hands even if it's been a long time. Speak even if you don't have the perfect words. Say, Ya Allah, I'm coming back. And trust that He hears you. Start rebuilding step by step. Leave one sin. Add one good habit. Guard one prayer. Small actions done sincerely have the power to transform your entire life. Because Tawbah is not just about erasing the past. It is about creating a new future, a future where your heart is lighter, your connection is stronger, your path is clearer. So no matter how weak your heart feels today, never believe that it cannot be revived. Because the heart that turns back to Allah with sincerity will always find its way back to light.